All right, to the members of the squad, what's happening? It's me, resident supervillain, Mr. J. Washington. You already know what this is, another one-on-one with supervillain. These are different this month. You know how everything changes for everybody else monthly? Well, this is the first month in my new place, and this is the first one-on-one I'm doing in my new place. And I'm so excited to do these. You know, I feel a little more comfortable and just a little more excited. And so I'm excited to catch up with everybody and talk to them again. And I'm always talking to her. She's wonderful. Give it up for JoLene, y'all. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. Congratulations on the move.
Thank you so much. I'm so fucking happy. I don't know if words can express how happy I am to be in my own place, out of where I was and away from what I was dealing with and everything. So, you know, it's just the getting used to it. Again, I was telling it's weird because I was telling Winston the other day. I got used to when I was at the other apartment, it'd be times the roommate was gone and there'd be no one there. But there was always this, you know, somebody eventually be here. Now there's times where it's nobody, it's just me here. So when it's quiet, it's just me. So it's getting used to those things, little small things, but I'll be good.
Yeah. I remember a while, I forget how many years ago, I finally moved out of my parents' house. You know, I got an apartment with a person I didn't know. Someone I was working with. Their fiance was looking to move out, and they were looking for a replacement because they wanted to live with their fiance, obviously. And we kept trying to arrange meetings where I would meet his at the time roommate, and nothing ever worked out. But he's like, you know what? Nuts to it. Like, here, like you can have it. And like the David was the roommate. It was weird. Like, this is awkward, right? We never met each other. I'm like, I tried. I tried to meet you. But like, look, I'll pay the rent. Here's like, I got the cable and the internet set up. It was like he was never there. And when he was there, he would just go straight to his room. Like, when I moved in, there was nothing in like the living dining area. So like I filled it up with like tables, chairs, couch, love seat, TV. Like, you want to eat dinner? You're like, I'm having the family over. You want to join us for dinner? It's like, and it was Easter. And he was like, isn't that going to be awkward? I'm Jewish. I'm like, it's not. No, it's just a dinner for you then.
Right, it's not a specific type of. Well, like, yeah, because my roommate and I did know each other prior, and again, it was like there was always small little things that would always annoy the piss out of me. But at the time, you know, it was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and I was only paying I'd gone up to paying $750 a month, which was like in LA is one of those things where it's like you can't beat that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
You know, so it was for the longest, it had been the whole, can I ignore everything because I'm paying a decent amount?
Yeah. Like, I was lucky.
I could.
There was no annoyances because when he was there, it was like he wasn't there. Like, I'm like, all right, but then like, so I got out basically because he came to me and said, like, because we had the yearly lease, then he like negotiated down to a half-a-year lease. And then he came to me, he's like, hey, I just want to like switch to a monthly lease. Are you okay with that? I'm like, no, I am leaving now. That means you would just up and abandon at any time. And then I would be on the hook. I'm like, nope. That's what now then I moved back with the parents because I'm like, I don't know what to do. So
but at least you had that option. See, that's the beautiful thing. You had that option. Have that option. You know, for me, it was, you know, I have to move back home. But again, moving back to Chicago would still be me finding a spot and all this. It's just like, you know, I don't really want to bombard family or friends. I want to make sure I got my own.
Yeah.
And again, this is literally my first apartment by myself in Los Angeles, which is a deal. But it's also my first apartment alone in almost 13 years.
Wow, yeah.
Because I've been in, you know, since like 2008 after my mom passed. I'd been in relationships, and eventually, you know, the relationships end up in cohabitation and stuff like that. And so, you know, you get used to it. And it was like, I think that's another thing too. It's like I've constantly been in a roommate or relationship situation, moving around, especially when I got out here. And then when I finally got situated with the roommate I had, you know, it's like, okay, I got a roommate situation. But for me, it was like, just leave me alone and let me do my thing, but just don't be, you know, the person that the roommate was. But now it's like, okay, it's not so much of I got to do certain, like, okay, I got to make the place homely. I got to make it for me. That's fine. It is what it is. I got a pretty big size studio. I can do what I do. But it's still, it's just me. Now it's like, Okay, so it's that feeling of that, but like I said, other than that, I'm enjoying it. It's so far it's like 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in, but it's going on the second full week. It's like okay, I got it.
Yeah. Well, congrats. It's
Thank
always
you.
an exciting step. I know that much.
It is, and like I said on Twitter and everything, I didn't know that you could have stress PTSD from moving, especially when you come from a certain situation.
Oh yeah, like even like when I moved the first time, like it's not as bad as like some friends of mine, like they just recently bought homes, and like
Mhm.
that's a whole, like they said, that's a whole different level of stress.
That's a whole because like you realize you're on the hook for everything.
Yeah. And like I've talked about like with this with coworkers and other people, and like a lot of people go to college for like career education, I guess, and other general education. College really should have like here's like life education. Like if you buy a home, here's the things you need to know. Here's what the you that's what like people should be taught this at some
I
point.
agree. I
Like they
wholly
are
agree.
optional classes that you have to take, that you can take, and like they help with mortgages, I think is what I heard from some people, but
That
like
needs to be, like you said, that needs to be a for sure thing because again, it's that you don't know, especially with people buying a home, you don't know until you start doing it. Like I know people who've saved up money and they start to get ready. Oh, we've had to buy a home, and I'm like, okay, cool, congratulations. And then you hear 6, 7 months down the line, oh my God, it's so much I got to do. From not just the general maintenance and upkeep of the home, it's decorating the home. That in itself is expensive, and so you get it, but it's like again, it's
yeah,
whew.
like the financials of it alone are just like a whole
And that,
ordeal from
I
what I
think that's
hear.
the big thing. I think that's the big thing, the financial part, because for me, like I've been saving up for most of the year, throughout COVID and everything. And, I can save them when I can and still do for my kids and everything. So I'm like, whenever I had the opportunity, because everybody knows I was adamantly looking. And so when the time came, like I said on Blurs, like when they were like, yo, you're going to probably have to put 2 months of security deposit in the first month rent, I was like, bet, whatever. I got it. Let's go.
Yeah.
And after I got the money out and did it, and I was so excited and everything, and I was like, okay, cool. But then I was like, shit, okay, that's a decent chunk gone. However, I'm like, okay, cool. I can start saving again. Cool, whatever. But then it's like, all right, well, you need to start furnishing and doing things. You
Yeah.
need things for the place. And it's like, oh shit, I haven't had to think about that
Yeah.
in that
Like
in that aspect.
it's like depending upon where you are, like certain utilities should be covered. Like let's be
Well,
honest.
that's the beautiful thing for being here. So the only thing I have to pay is my rent and my electric. My water and gas are covered, which is
Okay.
cool. Water, gas, and trash are covered. So I just pay my electric. So I'm like, cool. It's just me.
Yeah.
The most electricity I'm really running is, the light, this, and maybe the camera at the
Yeah.
same time. Like it hasn't gotten super hot yet to the
Yeah.
point where I have to run the AC. But I remember because Winston used to live in the building, he was like, "You may have to." I was like, "I will cross that bridge when I come to it." I said, "If
Yeah.
it gets that unbearable hot where I need to turn on the AC, then I will." But I'm the type. I was in the other place because I didn't want to hear shit about it. It was 85 degrees outside, 85 degrees in the apartment, excuse me. And I just had on my giant fan, and it's like I'm
Yeah.
just gonna deal with
That's
it.
what my room's like. Like we're having a heat wave this week in PA.
Mhm.
Presumably more places too, but like they said, it's supposed to go up to 90 on Friday. I'm like, oh, I'm not looking forward to that.
So it's funny you said that. So I'm going to tell you what the weather is supposed to be for the rest of the week for here in the valley.
Mm.
For today, the high was 75.
Oh, damn.
Tomorrow, 75. Friday, 73. Saturday, 72. 79. Then Monday, we jump up, which is
Okay.
like when I hear all these other places like, yo, we got a heat wave already, and we're in California. And I'm like, oh, for everybody else, it's still cold. For me, I'm like, this is perfect.
Yeah, that
You know,
sounds like, what is it? The San Diego weather, where it's like the ideal temperature year round.
yes. Yes.
But like then I hear the other stories about living in San Diego. It was like, yeah, no, it's pretty much a military town. So like
I mean,
outside
yeah.
like the Comic-Con weekend, like that's like the only time it's more liberal than not.
Which again, people keep forgetting. San Diego talks so much they don't want Comic-Con there no more.
Oh wow.
So San Diego. So what happens is, because for a week, not even a weekend, for a week, the majority of the San Diego downtown area, the Gaslamp.
Oh yeah, it gets like,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
And people rent out Airbnbs in regular neighborhoods, et cetera, et cetera. But at the same time, San Diego brings in like $10-20 million, something like that, something crazy. I think it's even more than some crazy number in a week in revenue that it needs.
Mm-hmm.
So like they were hurting, last year, everybody was hurting because of COVID, of course, but because they plan, as much as the residents may hate it, if you're in the city commission, you're like, yo, this is like $20 million we got coming in.
Yeah, like I remember like the same stories about like WrestleMania weekends. There's like huge revenue because like the people coming in from all over. Then the indie scene exploded during that whole week as well, bringing in even more revenue. It's like, I remember I used to go to an anime convention that was in Baltimore, like it was called Otakon. And like, like it's a huge business weekend for lots of places because you have all these people coming in. That's what big conventions do for places.
And it's so, I guess it's so weird now because it's funny how looking back at only 1 year and how everybody was like, okay, we're disgusting as a population, basically. Because that's what we learned throughout COVID is we're disgusting.
So, like last February, I worked PAX East. And it was like the start of the year, it was, in February. And like COVID was happening, but it wasn't talked about big. And it's a miracle that there was not a huge outbreak at PAX East. Because like it is like the huge, it's the East Coast version of the Penny Arcade Expo, which is like became a much bigger and bigger video game type conference. Like I know like Austin Creed was there because like he goes to all these things. I sold some books to Felicia Day. Like, so like lots of, and like, and so people fly in from all over. And like, this was again, starting stages, but like people were taught, like I talked about with other people, like, it's like, oh yeah, no, I definitely saw people like with the face masks already there. Cause like they were presumably far, from out of country and used to wearing that. But I'm like, yeah, no, like it's a miracle that we didn't get like a huge super spreader right then and there.
I went to C2E2, which was at the beginning of March.
Oof, yeah.
The beginning of March. And COVID has started being talked about. It has started being a thing. And I remember C2E2's crowds were way lighter than normal.
Yeah.
I remember I was like, okay, the crowds are lighter. People are coming, but it's not in droves.
Yeah, like
and it was like right afterwards.
I remember like just going to work some of the days and like, you see them talking. I'm like, oh yeah, we should be fine. Then I'm like, I don't know how well we will be. And like at the end of March, I had airplane tickets to fly to Chicago for the first time. I was gonna like meet some podcasting friends that like I'm friends with through internet. I was gonna see the last Rise show and a Shimmer show live for like the first time in Chicago. And I'm like, the week before, I'm like, I better cancel my flight. I'm not willing to risk this. And like all my friends are like, yeah, we're not going to go out at all.
So I was working at the nightclub, and like right before things started to shut down, I was working at the nightclub. I remember the weekend before, and the club had started getting real light. And then everybody was like, our security boss was like, well, it'll probably be about 2 weeks. And at first, one of the bartenders was like, yo, they say this is a big thing. And I was like, because clearly it hadn't been fully reported. I was like, yo, from what they're just saying, it's like a high upgraded cold. That's what I was hearing. Next thing you know, they was like, we shut down for 2 weeks. Okay, we should be back on the 30th. Well, we are in a full-blown pandemic. I was like, what?
Yeah. It like just what like remember how it all happened and like the perception. I'm like, you hear a little about it, and then there's just more and more news stories about it. Like, oh, that's halfway across the world. That's not. Oh no, it's here now. Oh, it's everywhere now.
And I think it was the fact that when you started hearing the confirmed cases, it wasn't even. We hadn't even heard the deaths yet. We had just started hearing about the cases where it was like, yeah, all these people have it, and you're like, fuck. Then they started like, because again. It's so funny when and I use the term loosely, when you see all these idiots who are like, well, it has a less than 0.09% fatality rate. I was like, yes, that makes this a Russian roulette virus. Who wants to play Russian roulette at all.
Yeah. And I was like, I've told you before, I was lucky, able to keep my job to work
Yeah.
from home. The first few weeks I was doing terrible. Like I even got like messages from my boss. Then I realized like when we were in the office, we didn't have internet access because like we were on the office network. But like I have to use my own network. I'm like, I wonder, like if I use this, I'm like, oh, all of the internet is now available to me. Like almost all of the internet. So like it was able to like for I'm one of the people like some a little bit of distraction here and there help my productivity soar. And now like I'm one of the top releasers in my department. So which like for a while like they were testing out different bonuses throughout the year based on like production and like we're currently in the phase 3 testing pilot, the pilot program as they call it. But phase 2 was when they were like giving us lots of money in our bonuses, and I miss it so much because like now it's like,
Of
yeah,
course you do.
yeah, I'm like, I know this isn't gonna last, but then like the next few weeks after, I'm like, all right, it's just this because like basically what they changed it to is like, all right, here's the maximum bonus that you can make no matter how much you release. I'm like, oh, I've already hit that on like no.
That's how I felt. That's how I felt when we first started getting unemployment. They were giving everybody 600 extra a week because mine
Oh
had
yeah, you're
mine had.
making more than your normal job, right?
I still to this moment am making more on unemployment than I would working at the nightclub. So because I told them I was like, in order for me to come back, I don't give a shit if they declare it over. Y'all need to raise our pay because people are still gonna be out here reckless because now you see people lying about stuff. But when they were doing it, when it was getting that 600 extra a week, mine hadn't kicked in right away, and I finally had to hit somebody up and talk to people in unemployment. And then one Saturday, I checked the balance, and I was like, "Ah."
Yeah, like my mom works for Weight Watchers, and she was making way more on unemployment than from Weight Watchers. It's just like, damn, companies are terrible.
Well, that's been that big discussion now because they were like, "Oh, nobody wants to come to work," and it's like, yeah, because
I wonder why.
You wonder why. It's not saying people would rather make more on unemployment because you can afford to pay more. When you got CEOs making hundreds of millions of dollars in bonuses.
Oh, it's so disgusting. I hate humanity.
Because I've been seeing, what was it like? At least I think it was only maybe one or two initially with companies that would put like fast food places was like nobody wants to come to work, and it was like, yeah, do you blame them?
Yeah, I remember seeing the thing on social media about some place I mean, they're a chain, but I saw like the Philly account was like
was it Taco Bell? I think it was.
It wasn't Taco. It was like it wasn't a huge national chain.
Okay.
But like it may have been like semi-regional. But like I don't know what it was. Some burger place, but it wasn't like a big name thing. But like, and the social media presence was just so aggressively horrible to people. Like I'm like, what? Like, yeah, we're offering you $7 something an hour. I'm like, what?
How dare you not want to come to work like a slave for 35 hours a week, making barely $10 an hour with no real benefits? How dare you not want to do that? And everybody was like, yeah. After especially whatever, yeah.
It was insane. Anyway.
It'll be interesting to see. It's gonna be interesting once everything's done, we'll move on. But it'll be interesting to see how these companies respond because they're gonna have to.
Yeah. I mean, fingers crossed. Who knows? Because like the corporations control so much that it's it's the never-ending battle, as Superman said, except it's like when he was originally fighting corrupt landlords.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of superheroes, have you watched Jupiter's Legacy?
I haven't caught it yet.
You haven't missed it. I started watching it. It is so boring.
I don't like Mark Millar in general, so I'm like, oh, a Mark Millar universe. All right. Like,
yeah, I mean, he's got so many properties that they're about to, like they're making a bunch of his stuff.
Like they had the Wanted. I'm like, I don't care about the comic or this movie. I'd probably enjoy the movie more, I guess. I don't know. It's weird. You got
Angelina Jolie and James
playing Halle Berry. Like Angelina Jolie playing Halle Berry, and was it James McAvoy playing Eminem? Because like that's the thing. The comic, they were drawing like specific celebrities. It was so weird.
Yeah, it was just like, I mean, the one thing we wanted,
curved bullets, right?
Look, they can curve bullets, and I literally got Morgan Freeman to say, "Shoot this motherfucker," and that was all I needed out of that entire movie. Just hearing Morgan Freeman go, "Shoot this motherfucker," and I was like, "Well, you know what?" After that, I sat through all this movie just to get to that line. I'm good.
What little I know is what my friend told me. He's like, yeah, no, they're assassins. And so like he was talking about the movie, and it's like, so you want to shoot this person that's behind this other person, and in the movie they curve the bullet around, but in the comic they just shoot through for the other person because they don't care. They're assassins. They'll just murder anyone. Like, oh, you're in the way. No, that's acceptable loss.
So
Like, because
why?
the comic was super violent.
Yeah, but that means in that case, it's like, then why even bother? Look, if they just assassins and they'll just shoot
Well,
through
look,
it.
I mean, look, Superman believes in truth, justice, and like the humanity way. Why is he just murdering everyone in Man of Steel and Batman v Superman?
Shh.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because
no.
somebody's gonna bring up an issue where he actually has killed one person, not a lot of people, just one.
Oh,
Somebody,
I'm aware of some of the issues, sure. Doesn't mean they're good. It's like, well, Batman originally killed people. I'm like, sort of, but that was back when he was the Shadow and before Bill Finger created the character. Like, Batman
also,
doesn't become Batman until Robin is introduced. That's when the story of Batman begins.
really.
Yeah, like Robin's introduced very early on, but
Mhm.
that's when like all of the whole backstory of Bruce Wayne comes about. Like all of the stuff that you know as Batman is happens basically when Robin is introduced.
Okay,
Because
okay.
before then, it was Bob Kane loved the Shadow and wanted to make money, so he designed the Shadow, and he wrote and he's like, "Hey, Bill, help me with this." Like the original costume was like very ridiculous, but very like he was very Shadow inspired, and he carried the two Derringer or two guns.
Yeah, I remember, okay, I do remember hearing about that. I do. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Well, that's the
but like it was 1939, 1940, so like, all right, well, like they took some time, and Bill Finger is a great writer. Like he developed so much, and that's why like I think they eventually had documentaries about like how he never got the credit he deserved for basically creating most of Gotham.
It's funny when you hear about that too. You hear about a lot of comic book creators who are just either just now getting their due or still haven't gotten
Yeah.
their recognition and just deserves.
Yeah, and like I've heard, I forget which writer. He was on Fat Man on Batman back when it was called that.
Mm-hmm.
But he talked about like how he helped other people. He helped with Siegel and Schuster in their lawsuit against DC, getting them the credit and the rights that they deserved. And they
Okay.
asked about Bill Finger, and he's like, I would have helped, but he was always a soft-spoken guy, and he never spoke up about like anything that he thought he deserved. But like, so like, I wasn't gonna force it on him, but like he. So I mean, that was the one story. One story. I know his daughter or granddaughter like went through to do the documentary showcase and get the credits, so he gets credits on movies nowadays.
Which is good. I remember.
Yeah, I mean, he deserves it.
Because I remember like within the vein of DC, I remember before John Schnepp passed, we were talking about Black Lightning, how at first it wasn't known if Trevor Von Eaton and Tony Isabella were going to get credit on it because the way they kept talking about it, they just talked about it like it was Salim Akil and all them. And then I was like, when I saw the first episode, I was like, no. They make sure it says created by Trevor Von Eaton and Tony Isabella. And I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, like I mean, the create like it's credit the creators deserve the credit. Like I remember, like I forget if it was a long thing, but like working with Marvel, I feel like for a while, like the artists and writers would like discuss about how like they never receive credit, or like Stan Lee would get credit most of the time.
Yeah.
And bless his, rest in peace, Stan. I mean, like you brought a lot of joy to the world, but also I know there's many stories from many writers that hated working with you. So like the split between Jack Kirby and Stan Lee is well known throughout history.
Yeah, and we all as comic book fans were recipients of that split because look at the characters we get.
Yeah, like Jack. I mean, he's the king. Like, like the people called him the king. I didn't understand for a long time until I was older and reading the old stuff. I'm like, oh, you created so much. Like, you are responsible for so much good stuff. Like the what's it, the Eternals. It's going to be weird because nobody's written a good Eternal story since Jack Kirby created them.
Well, I
Neil
don't know.
Gaiman. I know people talk about Gaiman, but like Kirby is the better story.
They're going to do. I think they're doing so I've been reading the Eternals, and it's the Dream and Celestial saga.
Okay.
And I think pretty much, if I'm not mistaken, that seems like the story that's best to go about because it talks about their origins. It
Okay.
talks their origins. It talks how they, end up assimilating throughout life. And the only thing they got to edit out is like there's a lot of Avengers crossover.
Oh yeah, like Cersei, Cersei is pretty much part-time Avenger, part-time model living in New York City.
And I got the Black Knight as my little boy toy. Like, just got Dane Whitman as a boy toy, basically.
Yep. Yeah, like it's so funny because I got recently got into back into playing Marvel Ultimate Alliance.
Okay.
It was a video game, came out in 2006. The modding community when they figured out they could mod it on PC, they did not stop. Like they are still creating characters to replace characters in the game to this day. And I was looking at Cersei and like they've got all the alternate costumes. I'm like, here's when she was just the supermodel. I'm like, oh yeah. Reading about Cersei, I'm like, yeah, no, for a while she was just a supermodel living in New York. The Eternals are weird.
Like, you got Icarus. He was going by the name of Ike Harris, and like he was end up being a wrestler. There's a deviant who's a wrestler and put in a glass cage. I was like, this is Kirby-esque type shit. Like, this is so weird.
I think it's not even just Kirby type stuff because I just finished the original maxi series of Squadron Supreme. Mark Grunwald wrote it. I talked about him in our last one-on-one, but like at the same time he was writing the Captain America, like 10 years of Captain America. He also wrote Squadron Supreme. Like they were introduced long before, like back in the 60s as like originally it was Squadron Sinister, where they're basically a blatant pastiche of the Justice League from an alternate dimension where they're like the evil Justice League. And then they create the from Squadron Supreme from yet another alternate dimension where they always come to like get the Avengers help or they help out the Avengers. But like this picks up at the end of one of those Avengers crossover things where basically Squadron Supreme on their world, a villain called the Overmind took over them. Like he mind controlled all of them and the president who was Nighthawk, who was the Batman pastiche. Like, and basically they destroyed the world and made it basically sort of a post-apocalypse. Like, and that's how the maxi series starts. Like they just defeated the Overmind, but the Earth is in shambles. And Hyperion, who's the Superman, is like, we need to do more. Like, we can't just stop, go continue what we're doing, stopping crime. We should do everything we can to make Earth and humanity as best as possible. Let's create a utopia. And like, it starts a break where like the Nighthawk's like, we can't do that because what we're doing is no different what Overmind did. We are forcing a totalitarian state upon people. And like, they vote. And on it's the Aquaman and the Batman are outvoted. Everybody else says no. Let's make Earth a utopia. And how they go about doing this? They're going to get rid of all the guns. They'll do the guns for the cash. They will shut down they actually work with the American government. They say, hey, give us a year to do this, and if we don't do it, we'll give everything back. We'll put it back the way like it used to be, and we'll just step aside. And like the president, the new incumbent president, like the government all goes along with it. And it's an incredible like 12-issue series. But the thing about it is like it's weird because like this came out just before Watchmen, so like it doesn't get talked about as much. And like also just after Crisis on Infinite Earths, so it's like in this weird spot. But like it's also heavily tied into Marvel Comics history because they exist in the Marvel. They've been to 616. Partway through the series, Nighthawk shows up in a Captain America comic, and it's part of this whole thing where he comes to Captain America and the Avengers for help. Hey, my team is taking over the world. They're because they've at one point like they get rid of all the guns. Their plan to stop crime is this character Tom Thumb. He's like the super genius. Like he's just real smart guy.
Mhm.
He creates the BMod device, where it's a behavior modification device, where it will like remove any instinct or desire to commit crime. And they said, well, it'll be voluntary at first, and then they say, no, if you commit a crime, you have given up all rights to given up your freedoms. Like you are a threat to society, so you should not be allowed to have these thoughts. And like they fight supervillains who take over their team for a second, and they just forcibly BMod them. What happens before this is like the Green Arrow character is Golden Archer. He's in love with the Black Canary version, and he proposes to her, but she's been wanting to break up with him for a while, and she turns him down. That night, in her sleep, he puts her in the BMod and says, "You just will love me and no one else." And like it all comes out, and they vote him off the team. And like the one lady, well, actually, it becomes to a tie vote. Like, and one of the other female teammates, like, he violated her. I would never work with him. Like, how is what he did any different than what a criminal would do? And like,
wait, the fact that they voted and it was split, people were like, you know, he might.
yeah. So like, it comes down to Hyperion to like split the vote. Like the chairman had to split the vote. It's like, and the whole point is like once they create the BMod device and like say, no, you no longer have a choice in this. I'm like, no, that is forcing your will upon someone.
Right.
And like at the end of the like during the whole time, like, as I said, Nighthawk showed up in Captain America issue, and Captain America is talking with the Fantastic Four and the Avengers. Hey, should we help save this other universe? And they all vote no. Like we can't just go around to every universe and like force our will upon them to stop them. And during the rest of the issue, like he goes back to his job to turn in his art for Marvel Comics for the Captain America issues he's drawing, and then like you realize, oh, where'd Nighthawk go? And then he finds him fighting some villains from Nighthawk's universe. But the whole time, Cap's having an internal debate about, I don't know about this. Like, I don't like dictatorships and what he's described. Like, and Cap's like, no, I will help him. I have to help him because what he's like, if like it's the right thing. Like like I don't believe in rebellions, but like he's fighting dictators basically. And Nighthawk's like, like he comes to this realization, like when he meets the other villains from his universe, like I can't just ask another universe to fix ours. I have to find people from my universe to help. And like that's when he starts teaming up with villains from his world to basically eventually fight the Squadron Supreme at the final issue. A lot of people die on both sides, and the whole point, like at the end, Nighthawk's point is, look, I'm not entirely against what you're saying, but the problem is you created a system that the humanity is reliant upon you to keep in check. I trust you in charge of this, but when you die, who's going to take over? I don't know if I trust them. That's like you like humanity will be reliant upon you to make sure this is on the straight and narrow, and it's already not on the straight and narrow.
Right.
And that's when and then he gets murdered by one of the other the villains that was forced good. Then like another villain figured out how to fix their brains to give them their original free will again. Like the Doctor Doom of the world figured, like, Tom Thumb's not as smart as me, but I will fix this. And he's like, no, why don't we just BMod them to our side? And it was a great internal debate from Nighthawk because a Squadron Supreme member finds about their plan about fixing to the villains to how they used to be, and like shit, we have to erase their memory. And like he hates himself for ever agreeing to erase part of someone's memory. And
that sounds so wild.
Yeah, it leads in looking back, like there was the identity crisis where Zatanna erased Batman's memory, and it all ties back to and it's an incredible 12 issues, and it doesn't get that's talked about nearly as much because Watchmen and Crisis surround it, and it has a lot of similar themes as Watchmen, but the other thing is because it's so heavily tied into Marvel, all of Marvel comics for a long time were all tied in continuity wise. This is another universe, but they're on the back and forth exchange on a regular basis.
They've done it, and it's weird because now it seems like they're retconning the comic book universes again to try to have them look to make them more linear.
I know, and that was always the thing with Marvel, because Crisis happened in the 80s. DC got retconned. Marvel's whole thing for the longest time was they never retconned anything up until Secret Wars happened in the 2010s, it felt like.
Yeah, and then they finally decided to start certain things over, but they didn't even. And when they started them over, it wasn't like they even started them over from the very beginning. It was
Yeah,
like,
because like
you know, the origin. Here we go.
yeah, like the most retconning, and it wasn't retconning because it ended up being another universe that could cross over with 616 was when they created the Ultimate Universe.
Mhm.
Like Miles and 616 Peter had crossovers.
The Ultimate Universe is the blueprint for the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Oh yeah, it's the blueprint like for a lot of things because Ultimate Alliance came out around the same time, and like all the initial costumes are all Ultimate Comics costumes, which I immediately replaced because I'm like those aren't as good. Like Ultimate Captain America, like Ultimate Cat, like at the time I was young. Like it's funny, like looking back at age when like how younger when I was like the edgy, grim, dark edge lord type person. I'm like, yeah, this is the real Captain America. He's an asshole. He says fuck you. He shoots people. And now I'm like, no, that is a monster of Captain America. That's like a war crime of Captain America.
That's you. That's why you have a U.S. agent. That's how you
Yeah.
get. They're like, yeah, we
Yeah.
can't have him be this asshole, but then we can have John Walker.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't, like, because I'm still reading the Grunwald run, because, again, 10 years long.
Mm,
I haven't got, I know he creates U.S. Agent, and, like, he starts off as the Super Patriot, I think is his original name. And but like I hear like just reviews of the story of like John Walker is an asshole. There's no denying that. He is not the best person. But when he becomes Captain America, Grunwald explores so much depth and like conflict because he wants to live up to the name of Captain America. And they sort of touched on that on the show, but like it was 6 episodes, right? Like they didn't have
yeah,
a lot of breathing room for a lot of the characters in that show, it feels like.
and then on top of it, to get cut off while filming, damn near halfway, 3/4 of the way through, because all of a sudden you're good into filming, and now here comes COVID, and you're like, shit.
Oh yeah. And also like I remember the story or I've heard the rumors that the original story was the Flag Smashers were going to release a virus that was supposed to like kill
It
half
was
the
gonna be a
population.
pandemic.
Yeah, which understandably I can understand why you change that at the last second when a pandemic actually hits the world. I
I
cannot fault you.
you know what? To be quiet, I bet you I got money on it. There were at least one or two of those writers who were like, "Yo, let's do this."
I I think it probably I feel it would have been a better story if they kept that.
I
Because
think it would have too, because it'd have been so on the nose.
Yeah, but like no, and it'd be interesting watching because like they couldn't have predicted this. No one could have predicted this. This was happenstance.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, you couldn't, if they did a pandemic, if they'd have just done it and just went through with it. If they, and I understand you like, yo, so much loss of life and blah 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 blah. But if you just do it and you make a show, people gonna be like, fucking a,
Yeah,
like
and
they
like
had.
and if, because I enjoyed the show, but I also don't think the show makes a lot of sense in a lot of aspects. Like, why are Bucky and Sam going after the Flag Smashers at first? They're stealing supplies from like holding facilities and giving them out to refugees.
Well,
Like that is
they're Robin Hood. They were Robin Hoods,
yeah.
but it wasn't until Carly blows up the building
Yeah,
that they
but
were
like
like,
they were always like that's the issue. Like why is the new Captain America, Falcon and Bucky chasing these people before they actually murder anyone? Because
well,
it's so confusing.
it was because they start. Well, if you remember, because I get what you're saying. When
Yeah,
Torres is
like
talking to Sam, he's talking about how they've done shit around the world.
yeah, like and he feels like one of the characters that they may have written after they changed the script. Because like if the idea was they've got this virus that is going to kill half the population, it immediately makes sense why all these people are trying to hunt the Flag Smashers down because they want to destroy half the population of the world. They're not just like, oh, they're just giving medical supplies out. This is not a job for us.
There was like, like, because even that's why I like the way they wrote Sam, because Sam was like, I get it, like I get you, I'm with you.
Yeah.
This
Sam
can't
was incredibly, I mean, it is the Falcon show. Winter Soldier is just there. Like he does not sadly get much development, but like I like the relationship stuff with him, but like it's
I think the
not
way
his
they
show.
do it. See, I think that's the thing. Like, because people talked about that. A couple people talked about that. They felt like there wasn't a lot of Bucky development. But I think the thing was, it was meant to show one. You were meant to get a couple things. One, his Winter Soldier programming is out.
Yeah.
But he still knows he has to accept that he is the Winter Soldier, that he was that type of winter. Like, he's the Winter Soldier. You're just not that Winter Soldier anymore.
Yeah.
It was that was his arc in a sense through this. Yeah. Because it was like we saw so much with Sam, you know, the story of you're now Captain America. Yeah, because Steve said so, but we don't as the government, we don't think that counts. You know, it's those things. But Bucky was like, all right, bro, your head's clear. Now you're trying to make amends, but while you make amends, you got to realize, okay, you can't just forget all that. You got to embrace. Look, I killed your kid, fam. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and then he just walks away. Like, it's so all right. You're not gonna. Nope. Like, there was, I forget. I think maybe it's Screen Junkies, but they do this so-and-so pitch meeting, and like the MCU ones and the Mortal Kombat one have been very funny because the WandaVision one was very funny because like, oh, is it Mephisto? Like, because like, you know, it's basically filmed after the fact and it's making fun of all these things. Like, I don't know. I just thought there would be a twist. Oh, you think like he guessed one of the twists, the Agatha Harkness thing. Oh, yeah. You think you guessed that? I'll make you pay for that later. You think there's going to be one thing and then it's not another. Like, oh, I've got a friend. Who's the friend? Nobody that matters.
Like, oh, I love how the Mephisto thing now has become a running joke.
It should be like
because everybody got so pissed off because it shows you how, you know, we talk shit about Snyder Cut fans and Snyderverse fans, but Marvel Cinematic fans sometimes can be that annoying. And for them to be mad that there was no Mephisto, that's why I tweeted that one time.
I love the joke. Like, Mephisto. You're mad about something you were never promised.
You were never promised. You were like, that was the thing. You were mad about something you were never promised.
It's like, it's a fun idea. If it happened, that'd be fun. You'd be like, it's like, all right, I called it. But like, the only part that I can like sort of empathize with being annoyed with was like when Monica says, I have a friend that could help, and it's just some person that no one ever heard of. Or like, who's the Quicksilver guy? It's just a boner joke.
But that's the thing, though. But that's the thing. Marvel has done that for years. To be honest,
yeah.
In the MCU as a whole, Kevin Feige, I think, because again we had so much hope, and Kevin Feige was like, "Oh, you think?" Because everybody was like, "Oh my God, it's gonna be Reed Richards." No,
I'm like, I hope not. I don't like that. I was hoping. I'm like, I really don't want it to be Reed Richards. He is so much more than just whatever this science role that she said.
And I was telling people, I was having conversations with a couple of friends, but I was like, yo, why would you want it to be Reed Richards when even if it is, hypothetically, do you understand you are not going to see dude again in a movie for at least 5 years, if not more? Calm down. Like,
so I know they had the thing and they just had the emblem. They had no year. Do you think they're going to shoot for 2024 for Fantastic Four just to play off the 4 number? Have an April 4th release?
I can see them trying to.
Yeah.
I again, Kevin Feige is too much into like, see what I did? You see what I did? You see what I did?
This is a fun little thing that we did. Yeah.
Like 4/4. Don't be surprised if it don't come out April 4th, 2024.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why wouldn't you?
I mean, what April 4th, 2024, fuck around be a Tuesday, and he still haven't released. He still haven't released the box office.
Stopped big budget movies in the past. It's movie releases are confusing sometimes.
You know, it's weird when you see them.
Yeah. Like it's a long weekend. I'm like, this is a very long weekend. But so real quick before the time is up, are you up to date on AEW stuff? Did you see or read Cody Rhodes' promo from last week?
I saw it, and I still am trying to understand why.
Have you seen Anthony Ogogo's responses on Twitter and the video that he had on Dark Elevation? He's so good. He is the baby face. Everything he's saying, like, I think he had a promo on Dark Elevation, but he was talking about, like, you know why I hate this country? Because people are dying in cages that you have separated. There's no health care to save people's lives. Like, this is the country that you people support. Like he went off on all of these things. I'm like, oh, and the best part was when he called Cody Rhodes, "You're a piss boy, and I'm gonna knock the peroxide out of your hair." And I'm like, oh my god, I love you, Anthony Ogogo.
I just was like, okay, bro, we get it. You got a biracial child coming.
And
Congratulations.
Anthony Ogogo is biracial. What are you talking about, buddy?
And that's what I was like. Anthony Ogogo is mixed too, bro. Why are you in tears?
Reading the transcript of that promo is just as baffling because I finally found, like, someone posted on one of the wrestling discords I'm on, and I'm like, wow, yeah, like it's 5 paragraphs long. I'm like, oh Jesus, it is.
It's one of those things. It's like the angle in which you're running with this doesn't work.
We had an Italian immigrant that was champion for so many years. I'm like, what does this have to do with any? He laid a flag on you. And it's like the joke that somebody posted, because the trademark of American Dream kept being denied to him because, like, he hasn't been using it. And if this feud is all for him to get the trademark of the American Dream, like, is that really it? Because I believe that that's really it.
Before we go, have you heard the rumor that him and the Bucks aren't talking?
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that, like, so Bucks and Kenny make sense talking because they're all together now on, like, in script wise. Plus, they've been friends for much longer. Cody Rhodes has always felt like it is the ultimate universe of the rest of the universe. It's like you're in a pocket dimension. Like, all your stories are, like, so outside of everything.
It's not, as everybody says it the best. And when I say everybody, you talk so much shit about Triple H, you're trying to be him and don't realize it.
Yeah, we've agreed on that. Like, he had the sledgehammer thing, but I'm like, buddy, you had that open challenge, which was fun. It got us Eddie Kingston, which I'm forever grateful for.
Yeah.
You had that Warhorse match, which was kind of ruined because Matt Cardona just came in at the end.
But I love it because it was the Warhorse match, because what it did was it shut the internet up, because Warhorse is an internet darling. And so Cody and Tony Khan listen to the internet, get Warhorse. It made Warhorse. It didn't make Cody look bad. It made Warhorse look bad, and it made them stop listening to the internet so much. They was like, "Fuck this."
Yeah, like they had a good match, and like they did the shake hand, and Warhorse was ready to fight back, but it was just all the build up to the Matt Cardona save,
who is now over in Impact.
Yeah, and like they said from the beginning, oh, he's only in for a limited time. I'm like, all right. And look, I really enjoyed Zach's. I can't say I loved. I grew to enjoy Zack Ryder back in the days, and I was with many people. Like, at first, I wasn't into him because I don't like Strong Island mentality at the time. But I'm like, oh, this guy's really charming. Actually, he's fun. But, like, you know, I'm sorry, Matt, your time is come and gone. Like, unless you rebuild yourself up again, and for me, it's not with your toy podcast. I'm not going to listen. I like toys, but not that much.
Who was that cut up promo or was doing? I forgot who it was. They shit on Matt Cardona so hard.
I don't remember, but like
it was recently. Somebody was like, "Yo, I heard him with his toy podcast talking about me." Okay, and I mean, it was somebody was like going hard at him. Was like, okay, again, but that's him and Brian Hawkins, whatever his last name is. Now, I'm like, yo, I understand what Impact tries to do. I get it. You take the WWE name value, use that and push it, and then say eventually we could possibly make you a champion. And okay, so hopefully that'll put eyes on our company. It has stopped working in recent years. Like Rich Swann. Okay, it was dope for Rich Swann to have the Impact title, but it doesn't sit there and say, see what Vince didn't use, because at the end of the day, like a lot of people said, and I know a lot of women wrestlers and women wrestling fans, like, he doesn't have the aesthetic.
Yeah. Like, and I've said, on and off again watcher of Impact TNA throughout the years. Like, and a lot of times, you know, the Knockouts division, I still love. Like, but I haven't watched in a while. I think. But, like, the thing is, sure, they're bringing people that released. I don't fault them for that. Like, because you're a wrestling company, and they're good wrestlers, and you can hopefully have a use out of them. The longest problem I've always had with Impact is, like, and like they got rid of some of them, but they have some problematic people involved on various levels. And like, all right, well, you're not being recently talked about, so we'll keep you around. Like, you may have outstanding issues, but no one's talking about it recently, so we're gonna keep you, even though you don't seem very repentant about it. So like, all right. So there's a lot of matches I just don't watch.
Speaking of which, did you hear who they released today? The WWE.
Yeah, I did. I mean, they released a bunch of people, but I'm only excited about the one
But
getting
that's
released.
why. But that's why.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because they made sure to not make it its own separate thing.
Because because a lot of them, me and my wrestling buddies, we were like, we know what it is. We know exactly. You had to figure out, well, fuck, who are we not? Because the best name for them to put on that list along with him was Jessamine Duke. I was like, it solidifies everything in that list because they are not using Jessamine Duke. And what that officially does is kill that 4 horsewomen versus 4 horsewomen.
Yeah. Like, I was slightly surprised by that. But then I realized, oh yeah, she's not being used. She's only really on up, down, down. Like, that is where she is. That is her big use. Which I feel sorry for Austin losing more of his friends, but I understand. You know, she'll be fine, I guess. I don't know. I really don't know.
The NXT talent, though, they have a better contract. They only have a 30-day non-compete clause.
Oh, that's good.
So
like, I saw a bunch of other like Brandy Lauren. Brandy Lauren was released. I think her name was Skylar Story. Like, she never got used, but like, I know of her because she was on Evolve. Like, she was the woman on Evolve, and like she was signed in 2020, released in 2021, and like, I know that social media wise, she's very publicly in a relationship with Joey Janela. So I'm like, well, I wonder how long before you appear in a crowd on Dynamite. So if it's 30 days, all right, then we. And like, it felt like she was one of those signees to prevent AEW from getting people, because they signed so many people that last year.
But I mean, but the thing is it also? I mean, yes, it's of course number one, the AEW to getting people. But then when you started hearing that WWE was going to do Evolve as his own thing, you know, they were bringing back. They were keeping Evolve as his own promotion now.
Yeah, like it was gonna be like NXT Evolve, or was the rumor for a while.
And so you were like, because you're not going to keep that same Evolve roster. We already know that. Like, you weren't doing it, because if you were going to do that, you'd have signed all of them. But
I mean, like, there's an Evolve name they signed that, you know, right before signing, horrible allegations came out against him, but he wasn't released.
Who? Oh, Austin Theory.
Well, yes, and Josh Briggs.
Josh Briggs.
He's a real tall dude, long hair. He hasn't appeared on TV yet.
Hey, listen, let me tell you something. There's one person who, and we'll get ready to go after this. There's one person you and I both know who has had allegations, and they will never release him.
Velveteen
Dream, because he is Randy Orton. He has to. The only way, I hate to say this, the only way the WWE will release Velveteen Dream is a criminal case.
If he gets arrested,
if he gets arrested, he's, as long as it's just allegations, because they know they're not gonna.
Yeah. I mean, like, historically, that's always been the case. Like, Tennille Dashwood, like, she got arrested for shoplifting. Like, they released her immediately. Then they realized, oh no, this was a mistake. They hired her back. Rich Swann, he was arrested as well. And like, if you get arrested, you're gone. Like,
unless you're Jeff Hardy.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
Unless you're Jeff Hardy.
Well, that was a different decade.
And
so.
Jimmy Uso.
Oh yeah, no, that's a yeah. There's like, we've got, I think Jeff Hardy, I want to say different decades, so they were more lenient. Also, the popularity at the time.
Remember, he just recently got arrested not too long ago.
Did he? Okay.
Remember, he had a DUI not too long ago. Yeah.
Like, for the Usos, always felt like they've got family connections. They're safe. That's why, like, Tamina will never go away. Like, I love her. Congrats to the huge WrestleMania prop, but she knows she's clearly got dirt on them.
Her whole
family.
Well, I think she has to have, because again, everybody knew her daddy was going to jail if he wouldn't have died.
Yeah.
Snooker was going, 80 years old or not. If Cosby can go, Snooker was going. Snooker was going to jail. But she must know, like, oh yeah, you think it's just him? I know where the bodies are buried, figuratively. But Natalia has that lifelong. But Velveteen Dream has what I call the Randy Orton contract. Like, Orton's cool now. Orton's at the point now where it's like, whatever. I'm good. I'm having fun working again. Cool. When I'm ready to go, I can go.
And also, well, the other benefit of Norton now is he said, "Hey, no, Black Lives like his social media presence changed entirely."
Man,
It was shocking.
when Randall Keith Orton
Says
said
Black Lives Matter, it was like, what? Okay, Randy.
I think everybody was like, "Did I just become an RKO fan?" Because it was like you knew if you knew Randy, you were like. Randy followed Trump, all this other stuff. He was done. And Randy said black. He was like, no, they talked to me and made me understand it. And when Randy Orton said, everybody was like, you know what? Don't fire this man, please. Please.
I was like, all right. Basically, I was like, all right, I'll give you a chance, more chances now.
But Velveteen Dream, until he gets arrested, look, we can, because I keep telling people all day, every day, the internet can get upset as mad as it wants.
I mean, yeah, same with Matt Riddle. Like, he's on television every week.
Riddle is in a major storyline. Do you understand? Riddle's allegations went bye-bye.
Yeah, I can't remember if he still has a court case, but it clearly doesn't matter to people. So, and like obviously the rumor is they know about all this stuff before they even hire them. Like, no, we can handle this. There's the mindset.
Because you also have to. So the thing, there are several things. One, they may find out some shit that you think they don't know. So they'll ask you, so is there anything you want to tell us? You sure? And then they'll pull it out. Now, if they really still want to sign you, it doesn't matter. They'll be like, all right, well, this is this.
That's like,
they're like, all right, cool. If this comes to light, this is how we'll handle it.
It's what I remember about like the Enzo story. Part of the reason why they were so angry was he didn't tell anyone what was going on.
But I don't think, but to an extent,
that was the rumor at least.
Yeah, but he was like, yo, I'm telling y'all this. He was like, it's not shit. And unfortunately, what came out, it vindicated him. It's just,
did it?
Yeah.
I don't remember any vindication. I like he's
an asshole.
Yeah. Well, he also released a rap song attacking like the accuser.
Right.
I'm like, no, there's no way I trust you or believe you.
Right, but no, that's the thing. The rap song didn't help. But from what if I'm not mistaken, I might be wrong. But I think.
So what I remember, should you finish?
No.
I'm sorry. So what I remember is police dropped the investigation because they could not find enough evidence to continue forward, like the court did not have enough evidence to go forward to find to try and get a guilty verdict. So they just dropped the case, which from what I hear happens in a lot of sexual assault cases. Unless like the prosecutor feels that they can win this case, they will not go forward. That's what happens to a lot of sexual assault victims is they never get any justice on
it. Unfortunately, right.
Yeah. That's what I recall happening. So
okay, so that's what it was. Then that's what it was.
And like people say he was found not guilty. I'm like, no, there was no trial. He was neither found guilty nor innocent.
Right. He was never found anything. But yeah, when he dropped the record, and then when he was just being an asshole in general, because the thing is, like, he would have been re-signed.
Yeah. Well, I remember like there was a Simon Grimm interview where he was just talking with someone, and like it was at the time that Enzo was like, look, either one of two things is true. You're an asshole or you're a monster. Neither is good. One is far worse.
Simon Grimm has me blocked on Twitter for some god unknown reason. I do not know why.
I have no clue. Yeah.
I have no.
I mean, I don't know him, so I would never know.
Because somebody was tweeting something, I was like, yo, who the fuck is doing this? I went through the Blurred's Twitter, and I was like, why the fuck does Simon Gotch got me blocked?
I don't.
But whatever.
I mean, like I remember like seeing other people like, look, like just random people on the internet like, hey, I might see a reply of yours in some other thread, and I think like, oh, this rings some bells for me, so I might never want to see you or deal with you at all. So I will hit the block just in case. So maybe it's one of those things. That's the most you could hope for. Like somebody could be telling a joke and not understand it. I don't know.
Could be, but nonetheless. I'm always glad to talk to you. I'm always glad to catch up in this way in the full stories for the month. I'm putting this, of course, in the squad, so people, if they want to talk to you about everything going on, wrestling, life, and so much more that you have amazingly going on, please tell them how to reach you.
You can check me out on Twitter at JoLene double negative. Also on Twitch at JoLene double negative, where I stream generally older video games. You can hear my terrible voice, which some people like, but you know,
Fair.
Pretty deep for me.
Fair.
Also, you can give my typical support women's pro wrestlers. You can give Alley Cat a follow. She's going by Alley Catch because she's no longer a cat right now. She wants to be a serious grappler, but her Twitter handle is @meowdyxyall.
So that's making you even more serious.
Well, look, you know what it's like to change your It's a hassle.
Especially if you're
I don't think she's verified though. So
yeah, if you're verified, you have to go because they say if you verified and you change it, you can lose it. You'll lose it.
Yeah.
As soon as you
I've seen. I remember Austin Creed did that. Like when he changed to Austin Creed wins, he lost his verification.
And they were like, bruh, you're gonna need to get this back to him real quick. Like, don't do that. And they got it because like it's so weird now how that goes, but that's a whole nother story. But as always, y'all already know, follow me, Twitter, Instagram, Mr. J Washington, Blurge every Tuesday, Thursday. We will holler at y'all. I will holler at you all for the next one. And the 101 Super Villain. Me and JoLene will be back next month, hopefully, as always. So take care. I'm out. Bye-bye.